You're about to watch a world first in-depth analysis and review of the very final expression from the legendary Karuizawa distillery to be bottled by Number One Drinks exclusively on Kanpai Planet. Welcome to Karuizawa, once in a lifetime. The Karuizawa distillery, founded in 1955, sat at the foot of Mount Asama, an active volcano in Nagano Prefecture, which was the source of the distillery's water. This small, modest, quirky outfit stuck with legendary barley varietal Golden Promise even when it fell out of favour in the industry, and aged their liquid mainly in sherry casks. They mostly made whiskey for blends, but incredibly, in July 1976, they released Japan's first ever single malt. Between 1977 and 1981, they upgraded everything, and production and quality went up. And that liquid from the early 80s? With hindsight, many think it's the best Karuizawa out there. But back then, Japanese whiskey hit hard times. The 80s and 90s saw domestic consumption collapse. Production was scaled back, and on the 31st of December 2000, the Karuizawa distillery was mothballed. Here's the irony. In 2001, their 12-year-old won gold at the International Wine and Spirits Competition in London, one of the very first signs that Japanese whiskey was about to explode globally. Sadly, it was all too late for Karuizawa, and in 2016, it was razed to the ground. But thankfully, before that happened, Number One Drinks, founded in 2006 by David Kroll and Marcin Miller, bought what was left, 364 casks. 77 of them were earmarked for vatting, a couple were faulty, and the rest high enough quality to be bottled as single casks. And since then, Karuizawa has become the cult Japanese whiskey distillery. Scarcity, mystique, craftsmanship, and, in a rare case of it's not all just hype, liquid that backs it up. Fast forward to February 2025 when I stood up with whiskey writer, legend, and longtime Number One Drinks collaborator, Dave Broom. Towards the end of our conversation, I asked him about some rumours I'd been hearing. Rumours about a project years in the making.
There's one final flaring, if you want. Yeah, there was unfinished business to be done with Karuizawa. So this year there will be a pretty remarkable final chapter in the story of Karuizawa, which it's been a phenomenal project to work on with the Number One team, with the liquids, and also with craftsmen in Kyoto to make what I think we now expect from these products, something that celebrates a distillery which will never reopen, celebrate its entire history. So yeah, it's been a joy.
Wow. And then he said something else.
Exclusive. I've been wanting to tell everybody about this.
That interview with its world exclusive reveal went live in June 2025, and now you're watching that final chapter unfold. On the 2nd of October 2025, a closed launch event took place in London, and on the 5th of October, Kanpai Planet exclusively revealed the first full details of Karuizawa Once in a Lifetime to the world. This is the final Karuizawa expression from Number One Drinks, marking the 70th anniversary of the distillery's founding. Just 145 bottles to commemorate a last hurrah. The name comes from the expression Ichigo ni ichido, one chance in a lifetime. It's a quote from Sen no Rikyu, the legendary 16th century tea master. This concept is rooted in Zen Buddhism's understanding that nothing lasts. So be present and enjoy the moment. That's exactly what I intend to do, because with this dram, that philosophy resonates deeply. Every sip brings you closer to a finality made more visceral by knowledge of the distillery's destruction. Once in a Lifetime isn't a snapshot from one cask. This is liquid that spans the entirety of the Karuizawa distillery's existence. Whiskies held back from the 1960s all the way to 2000, the final year of production. The team of Marcin Miller, David Kroll, and Dave Broom assessed every remaining parcel, liquid retained from the Number One single casks, and built the vatting in proportions that would give a complete overview of Karuizawa history, not just a moment in time. The heart comes from the 1980s, that legendary era of untamed complexity. I'm told that there's a higher proportion of liquid from the 1960s than one would expect. The 70s are well represented, and the 90s and 2000 are there too. We have seen similar concepts before. The fifth release in the legendary Ghost series, bottled in 2014, was a Karuizawa which contained liquid from 1960 to 2000, and February 2016 saw the release of a bottle with liquid showcased in a beautiful engraved decanter. The chosen liquid was married and harmonized for an undisclosed period of time before the team felt that it was just right, and then bottled at 58.4% ABV. Non-chill filtered, natural colour and at natural strength, because older whiskies, especially those from ex-sherry casks, can become astringent when water is added. Interestingly, they did consider re-racking in a freshly remade Karuizawa cask, but decided against it as many of the components were rather delicate and venerable. The liquid here is predominantly ex-sherry cask, although there is a little bit of ex-bourbon from the 1990s. As for the presentation for this release, well, they've assembled a crack squad of some of Japan's finest craftspeople. The boxes are handcrafted in Kyoto by Hiroki Goda of Inward, using traditional techniques which mean no glue or screws have been used, and a design inspired by a Shinto shrine. The front lids are made from actual ex-Karuizawa cask staves, and Goda-san uncovered something rather unusual while crafting the boxes. He believes that the wood from the staves is Japanese oak, not European or American as one might expect, and not Mizunara, but another varietal entirely. Yet another layer to Karuizawa's quirky, storied history. The label comes from Karacho, Japan's oldest karakami studio, founded in 1624. Karakami is hand printing onto washi paper. Akihiko Toto designed the label. He runs Karacho with his wife, Aiko Senda, who is the 13th master and a direct descendant of the original founder. The label is a white-on-white cloud pattern representing good fortune, with a grid containing either a colour or a pictograph from Chinese oracle bone script dating back to the 2nd millennium BCE. These are the symbols that evolved into modern kanji. 9 symbols: mountain, barley, water, copper, forest, angels, time, strength, ocean. These symbols tell the Karuizawa distillery's entire story, and as everything's done by hand, every label is unique. From November 2025, this release is available exclusively in the UK from the Whisky Exchange with an RRP of 19,950 British pounds, with a global rollout to follow in select markets through other distributors, including Whisky in Japan, who are exclusively supplying a number of bottles to Isetan department stores. The story that's brought us to this point is clearly incredible, but what's the liquid actually like? Let's find out. The folks at Number One Drinks have sent me a sample. I'm very nervous because it's the final chapter from them, a truly historic release. Just look at that colour. Burnished copper, polished mahogany, evocative of the most inviting of bar counters. Here we go, on the nose. Ooh. Okay, right off the bat, I have to say that this reminds me of one of my favourite places in the world, Saihoji, also known as Kokedera, the moss temple, in the times when I visited it after the rain. Oh wow, I mean, it's just bringing this amazing smile to my face. Yeah, there's this vegetal sort of damp undergrowth note, and it's really absolutely delightful. There's also musty library, museum, leather-bound books, and a bit of cigar ash. This is classic Karuizawa. There's smoke that's been there the whole time, but now emerging there's dates and there's toffee, and beneath it all there's some juicy fruit chewing gum. I actually feel a bit bad using perhaps a more mundane note to describe such an elevated whiskey, but the nose knows. It's a fresh, effervescent nose that's clearly foreshadowing what's going to be a highly complex dram. Kanpai. Okay, before we hit the notes, I'm reminded of something that the visionary designer Thomas Heatherwick once said about texture.
Where did all the lumps and bumps on buildings go? The shadows, the textures, the three-dimensionality, the high points of light. How did it all become so two-dimensional, so simplistic and devoid of character?
He could have been talking a bit about the development of some modern whiskey, but this is very textural. It's luxurious, it's oily, it's silky, it's viscous. It's absolutely delightful. Despite the high ABV of 58.4%, it's surprisingly easy to drink. It's the density of flavor that really adds to that palatability. And the texture, I think, we can credit in a large part to that use of Golden Promise barley. There's some dried figs, anise, cherries and blackberries for sure, and some Terry's chocolate orange. This is the good side of tannic. It's not astringent, it's not bitter, it's very, very balanced. As it develops, it really does get deeper. It's reminding me of walking through an old soy sauce factory, and there is an umami savory dimension to this dram. And beneath all of that, well, we got that juicy fruit on the nose, but on the palate, it's really reminding me of being back in a tuck shop with those old fruit chews. The finish is long and lingering. Oolong tea meets fruit tea with a bit of dried fruit as well. Some pineapple and mango and lychee. The smoke is there, but not overpowering. And the finish, you feel it in the chest as well. This is a very wonderfully warming dram. So, what's the verdict? Well, this is very clearly one of the absolute top whiskies I have ever tried. Clearly £20,000 for one of those 145 bottles is, how to say, punchy. But if you ever get a chance to try this at a reasonable price in a bar, do so. Reflecting on this whiskey, I see it as a tribute to the former Karuizawa master distiller Osami Uchibori. He joined the distillery in 1960 and he locked the gates in 2000. 40 years. Every drop of whiskey in this release passed through his hands. Rest in power, legend. Reading between the lines of some of the messaging from Number One Drinks, be that in some of the literature they've put out around this release, or Dave Broom's comments in that interview with me, there's something very deliberate going on here. I think it's about creating a separation between the original Karuizawa and the various ventures right now using the name or the equipment or the location. It seems to me over time, some of those boundaries have blurred, either intentionally or not, but I feel that this distillery, you know, the one founded in 1955, closed in 2000 and razed to the ground in 2016, deserves its own ending from the people who rescued its legacy. Number One Drinks saved those 364 casks, and they've been stewarding that legacy for 2 decades. And this really feels like it's them putting a stake out there, claiming the right to close the book on their own terms. And you know what? Fair play to that. This is what we're here for. Celebrating Japan's drinks, respecting true craftsmanship, and telling these stories the way they deserve to be told. Once in a lifetime. Until next time, Kanpai.